Welcome back to North County Roundtable. I'm your host, Alison St. John, and here joining me now is San Diego Farm Bureau President, Neil Nagata. Thanks so much for joining us.
Thanks for having me.
So, first of all, start off, you have been working in agriculture in Morro Hills here in Oceanside for how long?
For my whole life, but our family's owned the property since the 60s. We're third generation, so my father, my grandfather actually came into Oceanside in the late 30s, but my mom was born in Bonsall in the mid-20s, and so my mom's side had been here since 1905, right here in Oceanside. We've been part of Oceanside landscape for the whole time.
Okay, so we're going to be talking about this initiative that people are collecting signatures for. You've probably seen them outside your grocery store. And it's called SOAR, Save Our Open Space and Agricultural Land. And in fact, we will be having a discussion with the people who are in favor of that initiative at some point. But Neil Nagata here, you are part of a coalition, Keep Farming in Oceanside, which has been formed to oppose this initiative, correct?
Yeah, that's correct. This is not what it seems to be. It suggests that it's going to save agricultural lands. It really actually hurts agriculture. So farmers. I represent the San Diego County Farm Bureau. I'm currently the president, and our board of directors made a unanimous decision to oppose the SOAR initiative in Oceanside. And the reason is that it actually doesn't help agriculture. It hurts agriculture. We depend on our land values as a significant part of how we borrow money in order to get the capital to farm. And so when something like this comes in, it diminishes the property values. Ventura County has a very similar program, the SOAR program, and it's actually hurt their land values, and some of the farmers I know up there are just having a difficult time making things work for them.
So this is some of the publicity material that your group is putting out, correct? Which is, again, you'll probably see this when you're being lobbied to sign up and put this on the ballot. It says, don't sign the Oceanside SOAR petition. The thing is, though, you know, aren't there some farmers who perhaps are ready to get out of the business now and who are finding it very difficult because of the price of water and who feel like it would be easier just to sell to developers, that really the time has come to let agriculture go, and so this is what I think people are afraid of, is that there will just, the fields that everybody knows from all these decades in Morro Hills will disappear and just turn into a field of houses.
So the most important thing to remember about farmland is you actually need farmers to farm it, and they need to be successful. And so all the regulations and all the additional burdens that we have make it more difficult. We compete against Mexico, who pay on an average of about $8 a day, and our hourly wage is over $11. And because there's a shortage of labor, we're actually paying more than that pretty often. And so, you know, if you really want to save the farmer, which is really what you need to do, is not concentrate on the farmland. The farmland will take care of itself. As long as there's farmers, there will be farmland available. If you look into Camp Pendleton, there used to be farmland. And just, you know, probably 10 years ago, there was a big tomato grower that was in there. And it's no longer the case. There's 125,000 acres up just, you know, right next to us, bordered. And you know, there's plenty of farmland available if you really need it. And there's, you know, this actually just hurts the private owner who owns a property that's public land. If they really want to preserve agricultural preserve, they can do that up there, and that won't affect, you know, the people.
Well, there are different ways perhaps to be helping to preserve that land, and one of them, we were just talking about it in the last segment, was to allow farmers to legally grow marijuana. How helpful would that be, do you think, to help keep farming in Oceanside?
So I think any opportunity for markets or crops or really anything that could be helpful, as long as it's legal, should be allowed. And if that's the case, that may be helpful, but we can overproduce anything, and as long as marijuana is only legal in California, we will overproduce that, and the value, from my understanding, has already decreased by half. And so even though there will be some people who can profit off of it, it's not going to be just a windfall for all the growers up there. We have about 3,500 acres of farmland. up in the South Morrow Hills area. And I came and spoke with you in 2013, and we were talking about the sewer and the Oceanside, and actually kind of having a master development plan for our area. And if we could, do something like that, then the group that put this together, they're really trying to stop a development program that is trying to build out some of the land next to farmland. But if we would have a master plan, then we could, solve some of these issues and maybe not be so contentious with our neighbors. We're working with this city of Oceanside, trying to do an ag tourism program. Mm-hmm. We're working really hard on it, and hopefully we can put something that will kind of enhance our area to make it maybe an ag tourism, maybe a wine destination, maybe a wine and brewery destination. But the SOAR initiative will actually stop any progress. So if I want to grow...
But I'm not sure why the SOAR would stop any progress on that.
Okay, so if you are going to build a structure, you have to have a change of use designation. And what SOAR does is it makes any change of land use, you have to go to the vote of the people.
Right.
And so it would have to be a ballot initiative, and any small business couldn't afford it. It's $50,000 to $75,000 to put a ballot initiative, and it's tough enough to start a business from scratch. And if you were trying to have to go to the city, who would make that investment to try to actually create a business up in our area?
Are you suggesting that a business that would be agritourism, you'd have to go to an initiative?
Yes, absolutely.
Huh.
So what has been qualified so far, there's only 5 uses, and farm stands are one of them. Just very simple, not anything changing the infrastructure, so not widening of roads, not building of buildings. It really is a very limited scope on what was deemed agricultural tourism, and in fact it's not defined by the city.
So do you feel that this agricultural tourism does hold out some potential? How optimistic are you about that initiative? I
think that anything that can help us stay in business, agricultural tourism, the marijuana issue, is real important to try to, we are competing directly. So the regular fruits and vegetables that we have of the past are having a very difficult time. People want their fruit produced locally, but we have a lot of regulations. So the pesticides and all these other issues, there's a new rule that says that we cannot spray within a quarter mile of schools now. And so all these additional burdens just cause it so that it's harder for us to produce the crop. Like I said, when you go to Mexico, you're looking at $8 a day. You don't have those burdens of regulations that you do here, but yet when the produce is brought in, our consumers, they consume it very readily. Well, paint us a picture of what might happen to Morrow Hills and all that agricultural land if this initiative does pass. The voters are likely to think, well, that's nice. That means we're going to keep our green hills and our rolling fields. Is that what would happen? So what is allowed right now is 2.5-acre lots. And so really, if anybody wanted to, they could develop a 2.5-acre lot. And as we were talking earlier, the 2.5-acre lot is a large space for a home. And if someone puts some trees on there and they can't afford to water it, they actually let the trees die. And there's many examples up in our South Morrow Hills right now of dead trees, and they're on these 2.5-acre plots. If you're an active agriculturalist, farmer, mm-hmm. you're going to take care of your crop because that's money back to you. So you're going to keep the weeds down, you're going to manicure your crops, you're going to harvest, and you're going to take care of all of that aspects of it because it's your financial business. If you're retired or you're not, really concentrating on it as an income source for you, you just let the trees die. If you don't have enough money to cut them down, you'll just leave them there. And like I said, there are plenty of examples of these dead and dying trees. We just had the fire come through Fallbrook, and that came right up into our area. It burned quite a few houses just on the Fallbrook side, on the county side, but it did get, touched into Oceanside. So it was on its way, and some of those properties that I'm speaking about were threatened, actually. And so you're suggesting that even if this initiative were to pass, there would not necessarily be guarantee that we would see those hillsides remain green. They might end up by being dead and dying trees. That's correct. And in fact, the initiative was started off because of a development project, but that development project, by the admission of the person who created the SOAR initiative, knows that this probably will go through anyway. So the development will essentially happen.
That's the North River Farms, which is proposing nearly 1,000 homes.
I don't know what the number is. That really, that's up to the city council, and we have a representative government. So having a representative government really helps us be organized. If we have to go to a vote of the people for every land use change, just think how chaotic it would be. So this also includes open space, and a lot of the open space within the city are homeowners associations' backyards. And if a homeowners association or the Goat Hill wants to put up a restaurant or do something in their area, they'd actually have to go to a vote of the people in order to put that structure up to be a commercial enterprise, to do something like that. And that's exactly what I'm saying in the South Morro Hills. If someone wanted to put up a restaurant or someone wanted to put up a commercial building, hydroponics, a lot of those are being considered in structures. So in physical buildings, if there's a commercial building that's built, that's not going to be allowed by this SOAR initiative unless you go to a vote of the people. So how can someone that's barely making it already add an additional burden of $50,000 to $75,000 to get this in election? And that doesn't include all the materials that you would need to advertise it so that people would know what you're talking about.
I think people who are in favor of this feel like right now it only takes 3 members of the 5-member city council to vote in favor of a development project if that's proposed. And of course a lot of the money for their campaigns comes from developers and probably landowners like farmers, So they feel like that's not a lot of protection for the open space that they treasure. So I want to just ask you, if you were saying there was a better way to protect open space in Oceanside, what would you say that would be?
I'm not exactly sure. I think if you help the farmer stay in business, that is going to preserve agriculture. It's going to do more than what this program will do. This will actually hurt our ability to stay in business. Like I said, every burden that we add it makes it more competitive for Mexico to harm our local agriculture. And
then do you feel like if the initiative gets on the ballot, it's the sort of thing that might be quite popular, I think. So what is your estimate of its chances of passing?
Yeah, I don't know specifically. When you start talking about specific elections and things like that, it becomes quite challenging to know what the aspects are, but it does sound very appealing. If you just take the name, Save Agricultural Resources and Open Space, it sounds very appealing. But if you realize that it actually hurts agriculture, then that's why I'm trying to get out the word and that's why we have this campaign. There's Milano and Company, there's myself, there's several other of the farmers up in the South Morro Hills that have put together this campaign to try to stop that. But like I said, the San Diego County Farm Bureau, this made up of 50 or so board members. They voted unanimously to oppose the SOAR initiative because it really doesn't help agriculture. And
although there are some smaller farmers in Morro Hills, I think that would
most
like
of those are retired individuals who decided to move up to South Morro Hills, have a small orchard or have a little retirement area, and it really isn't a retirement area. South Morro Hills is an active agricultural producing area. And San Diego County produces about $1.8 billion worth of agriculture. San Diego County Farm Bureau represents 2,200 farms. And so we are kind of the spokesman for agriculture. And if you can't listen to the representative of agriculture telling you that this is a bad initiative, then who do you really go to?
Well, I think the signature gatherers have until March 13th to gather about 13,000 signatures. So they still have a bit of work to go. And I would encourage people who are approached on this initiative to do their homework and think about the issues, because there's obviously 2 sides to this issue.
Yeah, we have a rescission letter, so if anybody has signed it and they see this program and they wish to rescind their signature, on our website, keepfarmingoceanside.org. Okay. And if they could go on there and sign the rescission letter, we sure would appreciate it, because it really does hurt farmers.
Well, Neil, thank you very much for coming in.
Thank you for having me. I really appreciate it.
Giving us your perspective. That's Neil Nagata, who is the San Diego Farm Bureau president. And again, we will be hearing from the people who are in favor of the SOAR initiatives on another program. And